Hello there, good evening. Welcome to the Rangers Rabble podcast on a night where we bring you some positivity, some transfer news. Rangers have signed Czech winger Václav Černy on a season-long loan, which I'm sure we'll delve into in a wee bit more detail throughout the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, as always, like, subscribe, leave a comment, we'll pull them up and the boys will chat through. Delighted to say I'm joined by three men who know plenty about transfer windows. It's Connor, Alan and Kieran. Connor, how are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Nice to get a bit of good news coming for the club for a change. It was all very sort of sombre in the atmosphere last night in the members show and has been throughout pre-season, so it's good to get a bit of positivity and a bit of good news. Absolutely. And yes, comments at me if you want. I have had a shave so that, I don't have my beard. By all means, have a dig, crack on. This is our once every 6 months routine that we go through, so have at.
Kieran, delighted to say I'm back on with you. How you doing, my friend? All right?
All right, aye. Some positivity to discuss this time. So, and Connor's beard is going to be gone but never forgotten, and hope to see it again soon.
Listen, talking of beards, I had a shave mine off if I had one. It's not going to compare to Alan's. Alan, delighted to share the screen with you for the first time. How you doing, mate? All right?
Not too bad. Glad to see the transfer dominoes have started to fall. So hopefully this is the start of some real momentum.
Absolutely, yes. Okay then. It was announced earlier on this afternoon. It was one that had been bubbling away. I think we've seen him like Rangers on Instagram or follow Rangers on Instagram, and his father did as well, and it sort of seemed to rumble on for them. And as the player himself said, it moved quite quickly. Connor, Václav Černy, right winger, something we've been crying out for since probably the days of Daniel Candias. He comes in and maybe adds a bit of balance to that front three. What's your sort of initial thoughts on the new signing?
Yeah, happy enough that we've signed somebody in that position. Certainly, as you say, we've kind of been crying out for that for a while, and good to get somewhere in there. Honest truth is, I don't know an awful lot about the player himself. I know obviously he comes to us on loan for Wolfsburg. He is, to be fair to him, he's the Czech Republic or Czechia, depending what you want to call them these days, international. So he's certainly obviously got something about him that he's attracted the interest of their national manager and to be at a club like Wolfsburg. So yeah, there's positives to garner certainly for this signing. You just hope that it works. You hope that he is more of a Daniel Candias than a Fabio Silva, to be perfectly honest with you. And if he can contribute to the squad and a few goals and a few assists in there, then ideal. This is what we've been crying out for. Hopefully this is the ball rolling now as we head towards Tynecastle next Saturday. This will be the first of a few announcements, I'm hoping.
Kieran, as Connor says, hopefully the first of many, but let's try and drill into Černy himself. 26-year-old right winger, predominantly plays with his left foot. He's got a double digits in terms of international caps. The manager himself has alluded to he brings a bit of experience in terms of European football as well. Done a bit of homework, as I like to do, and he's linked up with Danilo, I think, during a loan spell at 20 during the 2021 season. So in terms of coming into the side fresh, he'll know in terms of relationships with Danilo as well. So it's all positive in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was looking at some of his numbers today as well, and I know last season he never had the greatest. I think he played maybe 20 to 23 games, and I think he got 6 goals. But I mean, for a winger, scoring is what we need. Again, we need actually something there, and the fact that he's left-footed as well, it seems to be that we're going to maybe try and fill that gap that we haven't filled in so long since the Candyman. He's done it at Parkhead as well. He's scored there before. He knows what that stadium's like. He's played in that atmosphere before as well. So I'm hoping that he's really going to hit the ground running. But I suppose he does have an injury record. I looked into that as well. But I'm hoping that it's not going to come back. It wasn't a really, really bad one, but I think he had maybe one serious injury, but Rangers look at that and rub their hands together and say, "You're injury prone, come with us." But I don't think he is. I think that he's going to be a good addition. I think that having that background with Danilo will help as well, because he's not coming in out the cold. He knows somebody here, and that one person known here can maybe help him get more involved. I would like us to try and push for Sima as well. I think Sima on the left and Černy on the right would be really good. But I'm positive with this guy. I'm hoping that he does the business, and like I said, he's scored a blinder coming to us, because he knows what Parkhead's like, and I think we need players in the team that are not going to be scared of that atmosphere.
Alan, just in terms of the deal itself, it is a loan. We made the mistake of falling in love with Sima last year, and it's not sort of materialised that he's going to be coming back to the club, maybe just out of a grasp in terms of finances. What do you make of it? Is it one that we might see more of in terms of more loans coming through? What the manager said in terms of what we've got in the pot?
I definitely think so. Even disregarding the manager's comments about sort of finances, we want such a rebuild that there's so many areas of the squad that we're going to want to add to, that loans are going to have to feature in. So if we can get quality players in and loan, it lets us focus on other positions, and we can revisit the positions we fill on loan maybe next summer. Certainly he says he's got over 200 games, so he's played plenty of football as a winger. He's got experience as an international player. As a loan signing, it's pretty low risk by the looks of it, and apparently his English is quite good, so he should settle in quite well.
Well, I was going to say that was a point that I picked up on just from listening to bits and pieces today, that he spoke really good English, so he should have no problems in terms of forging more relationships on the park. Connor, just let's go to just take some bits from what he said. He said it's the part of this club to be able to win trophies, and I think the main goal for this season that I'm coming here is to do just that. Obviously, the talks with the manager, talks with the club itself and with the manager, the vision, things we want to achieve. It seemed like it matches with the things that I want to achieve. And I'm just glad that I'm going to be at this beautiful club. So maybe I'm meeting a mind in terms of him and the manager and where they want to go this season.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you want him to have a good relationship with the manager. Clearly, Clement, and his team have identified him as someone that they've wanted to bring into the club. So that in itself is a positive. I mean, look, yeah, it goes without saying, coming into this club, you should want to win trophies. If you don't want to win trophies, then this ain't the club, to come for. You want to win trophies, go and join Hibernian or something. But we do expect players to have that. What I would say is that it sometimes feels a bit shallow, shall I say, at times to me, when you hear players say that, because that's what they all say when they come into the club. Oh, I understand that it's a great club, great relationship with the manager, I want to win trophies. And then they go out in the park and they're honking. So, there's only so much you can take for it. Listen, I'm glad that he's got that attitude, at least. He's got the positivity that's what he feels, and that him and the manager are going to have a good relationship there. I'm more than happy with that, but it's one of these things. I'll wait to see him do the talking on the pitch.
Kieran, just in terms of talking on the pitch, the manager spoke about him. He said obviously delighted to welcome to the squad. He's an exciting player, valuable experience in European football that I touched on earlier. He's already shown his attacking qualities during his time in the Eredivisie and at Wolfsburg, and he will further strengthen our attacking options in the squad. I feel as a club and a staff we continue to help him as a player to reach new levels. I'm excited to see what the season holds for him at Rangers. Just based on obviously Wednesday night, I think first half we all saw that we are really lacking in the forward areas. It was quite telling in the second 45 that Scott Wright comes on, a player that's been linked with a move away, and he arguably looked one of our best players. So how important is this in terms of bringing that stability and a real sort of new sort of pronged attack in terms of what we're going to do when the season does kick off next Saturday?
We need an attack that's not so predictable. If the ball falls to Dessers, it's really 70-30 if he's going to miss it or score it or even get a shot away. You've got Matondo that maybe comes up with something once in a while. Scott Wright comes up with something, usually when he's linked away. It's like he's always playing for a move. we just need something different. We need something that players aren't going to see coming. But with Černy, I'm hoping that, again, he's maybe played against a team in our league before, but I'm really hoping to see it's just something different, because we looked so predictable, even in pre-season. You seen what was going to happen. The ball would fall, somebody would miss it, somebody would maybe test the keeper a tiny bit. We need somebody that with that instinct that's going to go there and really going to push to attack. We're such not a defending team, because we didn't defend well, but we're not an attacking team anymore. But we try to be, but we're not an attacking team anymore. Look at some of the games, we barely get our shot away, and if we do, usually it's miles off target. So we need somebody with that instinct to come in and push. And as I said before, he knows Danilo. If they can maybe get that link up they had before, then we can maybe work on that as well.
Alan, is it important now in terms of we've got two wide players in Oscar Cortez and now Václav Černy that can go both ways, and go on the outside and come in the inside as well? As Kieran says, less predictability, and it's just about maybe finding that final piece of the jigsaw in terms of that focal point, the front man.
Absolutely, you want to see a wee bit of variety with your front line. What encourages me, if he's going to typically cut in his left and Cortez will cut in his right a lot, is hopefully the wide players will get closer to whoever's playing as a number 9. I often find our strikers isolated. The wide players stay far too wide. The fullbacks want to get up and go wide as well, and we don't have enough bodies in the box when playing off the striker. Dessers gets maligned, and understandably so, but he's always looking to knock the ball down and lay it off, and there's nobody anywhere near him. If we've got two wingers that cut in a lot and get closer to the striker, whether it's Dessers or whether it's anybody else, we should see more goals. We should be far more a threatening team and get back to the attacking team that Kieran points out that we're not right now.
Listen, it's been announced as well that he'll wear the number 18 jersey for anyone that's into that sort of thing and wants to get the name on the back of the top. He'll need to hit the ground running. The games come thick and fast, and as we all know, the pressure can be on you very, very early in the west of Scotland. Listen, if you guys in the comments want to add anything about Václav Černy, certainly get it in, get questions in. We'll pull them up, and the guys will talk about that. Just moving it on slightly, because there's been quite a lot of transfer talk, Connor, over the last couple of days. Another one that seems to be sort of gathering in paces is Juan Jordan, midfielder at Sevilla. He's 30-year-old. Been rumoured that Rangers have gone back and said they'll pay 40% of his wages to get him across. Is that an area that certainly needs something in there? We saw again on Wednesday night, the balance just doesn't look right. Connor Barnes came on and really added something, but just we need maybe that bit more of an experienced head in the middle of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said that, for a while. Actually, I said it earlier on when we were signing some of the younger lads. I did say, you need to bring in somebody with some experience as well. You can't, you've got to have that mix. I think, Jordan's obviously, 30-year-old, I think it is, so he's not that old in terms of, it should be any kind of a problem fitness-wise. To play, he should be absolutely fine. And I think it would be a good signing just to stabilise the middle of that park. And clearly, if he comes in, you would think that the plan would be for him to almost instantaneously slot into that central midfield role, depending on how Clement wants to set up going into the start of the season. I mean, we spoke about it last night. We're not really 100% certain on just yet on what his actual tactics are or they're going to be, but I think Jordan certainly would be a great signing. And if you're paying 40%, of his wages, I can't see any problem with that. I mean, 40% of his wages, he's a 30-year-old at Sevilla. I don't imagine that's going to break the bank at all to do that. So yeah, no, I have no qualms at all with that, and hopefully if that gets over the line in the coming days or the coming hours, even, you never know, then yeah, I'd be more than delighted.
Kieran, on the flip side of that, obviously people in the comments saying that Jordan's not going to come. That's why the club have turned their attentions to Hannibal. There was talk yesterday that he might be coming on loan up from Manchester United. Do you think it's going to be one or another, if not both?
with Rangers, you really never know, to be completely honest. I feel like we do sometimes keep our cards close to our chest, which I kind of like. That Juan Jordan, it kind of came out of nowhere at one point, and it started gathering pace until the bid got knocked back. As CGM puts there, he doesn't want to come. I've heard on different podcasts, different stories. So I've heard that in one of them, that he is quite keen to come over. And then there's another one that he wanted to try and push himself to stay in the Sevilla team. So I don't know. I would prefer a player that was all in, that wanted to come here, not somebody that had their doubts and maybe just wanted to come here because they didn't have an option at their club. Hannibal's a very good player. He's had good loans elsewhere. He's quite a good player, but I'm positive, and I'm sure Timothy's just put there as well, Hannibal likes to play a bit further forward. We need somebody that's going to kind of control that midfield, maybe just patrol, just to make sure that they kind of put out any fires. I really like the look of Barron in the midfield. Diamonde, I'm not entirely sure if we can maybe move him up and bring Juan Jordan in beside Barron, but I honestly don't know. I would quite like to see both of them, but it depends, because if we spend money on both of them, then it's potentially not able to get somebody else in that we need. So,
Alan, I thought you were going to carry on there, Alan. It's certainly a position that needs strengthening. I mean, do you have any preference over the two yourself, or do you feel that we need to get more as many bodies in as we can in terms of the midfield? As Kieran mentioned, Barron and Diamande stand out. We've had that injury to Raskin. I don't know if he's going to be back in maybe 4 to 6 weeks. It would appear. He'll certainly add something and be ready for action if called upon. But is it a case of we need an inexperienced head, or the younger player in Hannibal who's coming up from the stellar club and the Premier club in Manchester United?
I would move on for Jordan. I really don't think he seems keen to come at all. So I don't think that's the sort of mentality we need at the club. It's interesting, we don't seem to be getting linked with any sort of players that will typically play in a 10 role. We're clearly trying to move Cantwell and Hadji on. Lawrence isn't too involved. So I'm wondering if we'll maybe play with Barnes sitting in and bring in a Hannibal, play with maybe Diamande in front of Connor Barnes. Two midfielders that can go from deeper, with the insurance of having Connor Barnes sitting further back. I wonder if it might actually change a wee bit and get more control in midfield and games that way.
Well, it would be a blessing if we do. I think that's where we maybe lost a few games last season. Important games was in that midfield. Connor, let's go just on to obviously the outgoings, and there's going to be a few that are racking up. Obviously, there's pictures this morning of your namesake, Connor Goldson, at the airport with suitcases packed high. He's on his way. Then the news broke that Cifuentes is heading to the same nation as well, Cyprus, Aris Thessaloniki, with a loan, with an obligation to buy a reported €5 million, which could be really, really good business for the club.
Absolutely, could be great business, and I think that's one thing I would say when you look at the outgoings that are on the table today. I mean, it does seem that we're somehow managing to do okay business. I mean, Connor Goldson, I think they were saying it was €2.5 million or something like that, so about £2 million. That's no bad. Let's be honest, considering what we're actually giving them. You'll take that all day long and run. Sam Lammers, obviously, he's been touted at a similar sort of price coming in the door, which again, positive signs, because we've heard it for the manager that he was going to have to sell some players in order to bring more in the door. So if between those two you're getting £4 million in the table, great. And then the Cifuentes situation, obviously, again, as you say there, loan with obligation to buy, so hopefully he goes over there, does well, and then we get some good cash off the back of that. And again, it'll take some strain off the wage bill as well, having him away. I do have some sympathy with Cifuentes, to be perfectly honest with you, because I don't feel he ever really got much of an opportunity to get going. I think we were vociferous in our approach to him. We were determined to bring him in the door. It seemed, we chased him and we got it over the line after quite some time, and I think that automatically put pressure on his shoulders, because we all as Rangers fans are thinking, well, if we have been so determined to bring this guy in, he must be a player. You don't.
It didn't help him that Michael Beale said he was a guy that was going to take us to the next level.
No, it didn't, and that put unwanted or needed extra pressure on the young lad's shoulders, and I think you could see it in him in the few games that he did play, and didn't really work out for him. Of course, he picked up an injury as well, which is unfortunate. It's one of those ones. Probably has to be done. I wish we could have seen more from him and got to see more about what he's actually about, because obviously he done well in America and then he came here, just never clicked, and yeah, it's an unfortunate one with Cifuentes, but good business financially for us if all goes well with the deal, and that's the important thing, is making sure when players go out the door they don't just walk out for absolutely nothing. That you're able to get something back for these players, and that's what it looks like we're going to do in these instances, which is good, and that will allow us, as I say, to bring in other players that we desperately need.
My lasting memory of Cifuentes, I've been stood there trying to get the chain off before he was coming onto the park. Crazy. Okay, Kieran, I think, is there a moral in this story? You look at, we've just mentioned there, Sam Lammer's getting punted, Cifuentes getting punted. These are all the old managers, players that he brought in last season, big recruitment drive, big rebuild. We can't keep making these same mistakes every transfer window.
Well, that's it. We handed the keys to Ibrox to a car salesman. That's really what happened. It just seemed to be that even the board were conned by this idea that he was the brains behind 55 and he could take us to the next level. What level were they looking for? The Championship? Honestly, it just seemed to be that. I'm not saying that he got everything wrong, because he got Butland in, but if you look at the kind of the proof in the pudding here, if we're willing to ship Lammers, we're willing to get rid of Cifuentes, Cantwell, that's three. We're probably going to look at offers for Dessers. So, I mean, all the players that he bought in, that he sat down and looked in their eyes and said, you're the one that's going to come to Ibrox and do business for me. What was the business? Get him sacked. It was just horrendous. It just looked like a team effort, to be honest. It was comical. And then they said that we were watching Cifuentes for, 2 years prior or something like that. It was something to do that we had been watching him for a while. Well, when he first came in, I was at his first game, and I quite liked him. He looked like he was scanning round all the time. He was looking for the pass. And then the next game, it just passed him by and he never recovered. I know that he suffered some mental problems when he was across here on his Instagram, etc. I don't know if it was a breakup or something, but I remember that there was a big problem that he kind of just dropped out for a while as well. Didn't help, he hated the weather. He was all, in every interview was, it's cold kind of thing. You could see that he wasn't enjoying himself here. The language barrier must have been a problem as well. You've then got, on top of that, the recruitment was just an absolute shambles. They got maybe one right, and it was Butland. That's the only kind of pool that Michael Beale had, or player 16 ID had for this club. Apart from that, he really got nothing right in terms of recruitment. So now that Coppin and Clement seem to be working together, they've basically said, we want an old guard out, the new leadership in. We want a youth, a much younger squad as well. Look at the players that Coppin's trying to get in. Most of them are in their early 20s. So we're looking to kind of build from the youth perspective without touching the B team, etc.
Alan, just finally on sort of outgoings, Yanis Hadji, sort of gathering momentum that he may be going back to Fiorentina. I think €2.5 million. I think the writing was been on the wall there for quite some time since that interview about what Michael Beale had said about him. Strange that Philippe Clement doesn't want to have a look at him, but that maybe the players just said, look, I'm done and dusted, I want to move on.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much been in the works for some time. The fact that we're probably going to move Hadji on, and actually bring in money for him when he's really not played much football in the last 2 years. So we still got him under contract, and we look like we're actually going to bring in a fee for him is quite encouraging. I know the talk is this. Sam Hammers will hopefully be at the door soon as well. Again, bringing money back in. So we're definitely getting a wee bit better at moving players out, because 5 or 6 years ago, these are players we'd be paying up their contracts.
Yeah, no, listen, a point well made. Maybe I think some would maybe hope for a little bit more with Giannis in terms of maybe breaking even. I think we paid nearly 4.5 million for him. He's just played the last 16 the Euros, 2 years left in his contract. Just seems, I don't know, like an opportunity miss, but that's just my opinion. Connor, we talk about small steps. It's only one in the door. There's loads more work to be done. You can look at the centre back area. Looked at real cause for concern midweek. We're talking about striking options. We're talking about midfield. We've got a lot of work to do in a short window to do it.
Yep, we certainly do, and that's the thing. We've kind of dragged our heels a bit in the early stage of the summer because we haven't been able to get the ball rolling on getting players out before we can actually start then doing the proper pieces of business that we need to. So, reality is that we've got a week tomorrow. We go to Tynecastle to kick off the campaign, and what will be a very, very difficult game. It's not a place you would handpick to start your season at by any stretch of the imagination. Particularly if the last few seasons are in to go by, Hearts have tended to get off to absolute flyers in their campaigns. Whether it be, they beat Celtic a couple of years ago, last season as well. They go on these runs early in the campaign, 9, 10, 11, 12 games unbeaten. So we've got to be very careful, and that puts an extra onus on getting as much business done as we can between now and then, because unfortunately, pre-season comes to an end tomorrow, whatever the result in Berlin happens to be. We're not going to get the opportunity to see some of these players in a pre-season context, so they're going to have to come into the fire straight away, and hopefully if we get the business done right and get players in, we'll be fine. And who knows, certainly if I had my way, and I know you agree, Robert, there would be one player in Maroon who would be playing in Royal Blue next Saturday at Tynecastle, but we'll see what happens on that front.
Listen, the poster's still up, believe you me. Okay, Kieran, as Connor says there, it's just the start. It's one building block. I listened to Stevie Clifford speak earlier on it just about saying that the forward areas are probably more priority than at the back at the moment. He sort of said that Davies, Balogun, and forgive me, give me another name. Who's another centre half? Suter, there you go. There we go. Forgotten man. Yeah, with do's and patches. Is that really good enough, or do we really need to be going out and looking at what we can get and picking up maybe whether it's a free transfer or indeed another loan and just trying to be smart about it?
A Rangers team can even by reputation, can afford to stick by a players that will get us through patches. We need 2 out-and-out centre-backs that are going to control that back line. We need players that are going to be able to be called upon, that aren't injury prone consistently. We need players that are going to stand up and be counted, ken how to header the ball away for a set piece, know how to put in a tackle. We need players that are going to have an aura about them that players will be scared to come at, because there's no player in the league that is scared to run at Suter or Davies. Davies, for me, is not a Rangers player. Obviously, statistically he is, but I don't see the quality in him. I really don't. There's maybe been a couple of times where you think, he's no bad, but you can't have that for your starting centre back. You've got and Ali, I forgot Sterling. Cheers for reminding me. I forgot that Beale brought him in as well, but he did nothing with him. It was Clement that really developed him. The centre-back situation is terrible, because, like I said, there's not one player in that league, even the Ross Counties, St Mirrens, etc., that are not going to be scared to run it. Balogun, not be scared to run it Suter, not be scared to run it Davies, because half of them, I've seen milk turn quicker. It's getting a bit beyond a joke that our centre-back pairing, when we as fans are not even confident on one of the centre-backs, Balogun, if he was 10 years younger, would be the first choice every single time. But he has got that yard of pace still, but he's just not good enough anymore. He's good for backup, as in maybe third or fourth choice. Suter, I'd say, would be good as backup, second choice. The first pairings has to be two new people coming in.
Alan, I think you can agree that, which we know the manager tells the truth. They said, earlier on in the week that Clinton Insiala is not ready for the first team. I think that was evident in large majority of his showing on Wednesday night.
Yeah, certainly. We talked about it last night, and I know the guys had talked about it on the reaction pod. He showed in flashes sort of why we've signed him, and he probably also showed in flashes why the manager doesn't think he's ready to be straight into the first team. There's clearly a lot of promise here, but we can't overexpose this boy and ruin his career right at the start.
I think as well, it's important what Ian just said, the point I brought up, that not only is it just quality at the back, like the three guys we just mentioned there, Balogun, Suter and Davies, have all had injury issues in the past.
Definitely. We've got a really big squad and we still seem to lack depth, which is down to the fact that players are just not robust enough to be available. We need a centre-half that's going to go and kick the proverbial grannies out the way to win the ball and be there for 50 and 60 games a season. Connor Goldson, for all his faults and all the criticism, was playing 60 games a season for us. And that's why he's been so pivotal to our team for the last 5 years, because he's been there week in, week out, and we need more centre-halves that we can rely on like that.
Absolutely. A point that I kept, Connor, for you, I saw that if we need cash for Seema and Shankland, sell Butland. That's not going to happen, is it?
Listen, I don't see Jack Butland leaving, but I did say last night that it's one of those decisions that if the right offer came in and it enabled you to do surgery in those key areas of the park that we need it, I find it difficult to see how we could turn it down. And
what's the right offer, Connor? What's the right offer? Sorry, then. The manager's gone on record as saying 30 million. Whether that's tongue in cheek, but what's the right offer?
Well, yeah, it's clearly tongue in cheek. I mean, let's be honest. He came to us on a free, so you've got to take things into context. I think for me, if you get offered around about the £15 million mark, I think you take that. Because my concern would be, we've been in this rodeo before where we get a good offer like that for players. Look at Morelos, for example, and the offer for Lille. We didn't take it and we got burnt because the gamble didn't pay off. And I think you take that money and you go, right, we can reinvest that into the squad. We can bring in, you could bring in both a Seema and a Shankland with that money. You could also add another goalkeeper to the ranks, which you would probably do, because whether or not Liam Kelly became number one, you'd still want another goalkeeper there, because the next option down for Kelly, I believe, is the young lad in the for the sort of academy. Budinakis, yes. So, and nothing against him, but you want at least to have an option there. So you would do that for me. And I said last night, Liam Kelly knows his way about the league. Yes, didn't have the best of seasons at Motherwell, as was pointed out to me, which I'm aware of. But is still a decent enough keeper if you had to do it. I don't want us to do it, but as I say, if £15 million gets offered, there's no way we can afford to turn that down, given the current financial climate and the struggles we're having just bringing players in at the moment.
Okie dokie. Cheers, Lyndon. Thanks very much for that. So listen, we're off to Germany. We've got Union Berlin tomorrow, I believe. A couple of guys making the journey out there from the Rabble, so safe trips to you guys. It's the last one. It's the last friendly, Kieran, before it's business time starting next week. We've got, obviously, it's Connor touched on there, the curtain raiser at Tynecastle, and then the European games come in. How do you see the squad lining up tomorrow? Because when I saw the team sheet on Wednesday night, I was very uninspired, for want of a better phrase.
I said this last night that I would play our strongest team. for maybe up to maybe the 70th minute or something like that. Get them playing together. If we're the team that we're going to be playing at Tynecastle, we need to be getting them together. We need to be trying things. We need to be trying to identify this style of play. It seems that we don't have a style of play at the moment. It just looks like we were kicking it up the park and seeing what we could do with it. There was no style of play that I seen on Wednesday or throughout any of the pre-season games. So I'm just hoping that we go with our strongest team to start with, and then we take them off and then bring the younger ones in towards the end. But we need to actually see what this team can do together.
Alan, you keep doing that to me. I keep thinking you're going to carry on. You keep nipping it shut. I'm a bit of practice on here. Alan, I'll come to you on this then, because is it important that players and the manager need to be having conversations about, about having this settled side? If you mentioned, or I think it was Kieran, sorry, that mentioned earlier, but maybe Dessers might go, or we know Scott Wright might be going, but we're still using these players. We're still utilising the manager himself not really know what he's got to go with in terms of his first 11.
It probably doesn't, but at the end of the day, well, players like Dessers are here and earning big money, they've got to expect to contribute. We simply don't have anybody else to play up front right now other than Cyril Dessers, because Danilo, we've got to manage him back to fitness. So where it's Dessers, where it's Scott Wright, whether it's Tom Lawrence, maybe Kieran Dowell, players at the club are probably looking to move on. They're going to have to be in and around the team and contribute. And hopefully, if they do that in a sort of positive way and show the right attitude, they'll actually attract some offers and let us move him on and replace him with players the manager wants to work with.
Colin, it's a point he makes, obviously, about the players putting in good performances and moving on, but you're then hoping that the club and their infinite wisdom have got players lined up ready to go, because we just don't have the time. The clock is ticking. There's been since the season finished, there's been loads of time to get this done, and it seems like now we're sort of trying to cram it into the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, yeah, this is it, and it's like I said there. Unfortunately, we didn't get ourselves off the ground quick enough, and as you say, it's well and good having all these players getting out the door, and quite rightly, a lot of people in the comments are coming in with a list of players that they're happy to see go out the door. The issue is replacing those players, because you do need squad depth as well. You can't just focus on a starting 11. You need to have people who are capable of doing a job for you off the bench as well, and that's the concern we've seen in pre-season, how paper thin the depth really is right now, and so there has to be that focus as well when you're bringing players in that you're sort of beefing out the squad, as it were, but you can't do that if you just let everybody go. So some players that might not be popular amongst the fan base will have to stick around. That might be a Scott Wright, for example, as Ali Quinn mentions. He's no problem in being a squad player, and that might be the case. A lot of people aren't the big fans of Scott Wright, but he's somebody that probably will stay, because, well, 2 reasons. One, as I say, you can't let everybody go. He's not on a high wage, and there's not exactly been a flurry of offers come in for him either. So, that's the compromises that you have to make. And listen, it's tough decisions. Sometimes you've got to make decisions that aren't popular, but that depth is important to have. I personally think that in an ideal world, you bring in a striker, and you'd probably keep Cyril Dessers as a backup on the bench, because I said at the end of the season, for as much as he's an enigma and he frustrates the life out of you, he did get 20 plus goals last season.
Where's Danilo's role then for you? If you're bringing somebody in and Dessers on the bench, is Danilo just not in the picture?
Well, no, Danilo can still win the pitch. You've got to remember, we're going to be fighting on at least 4 fronts this season. You've got league campaign, European campaign, and 2 cup campaigns to contend with. That's more than enough games of football that everybody can be involved. Danilo, I think, will very much depend on, particularly in the early stages of the season, where his fitness is at and how sharp he is, because he's looked okay to a degree when he's made appearances in the in the pre-season games, but he hasn't looked anywhere near 100%, and that's to be expected given the lengthy injury absence that he's had. So, look, for me, Danilo obviously still plays a part. I can't see him just now being the number one until he gets fitter, until we see more out of him that shows he can be that. Because let's be honest, even before he got injured, there was grumblings about him. There was frustrations at times that whilst he excited you, he didn't deliver the end product always, albeit he certainly put his head on the line to score that goal against St Johnstone. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but a lot of teams have 3 strikers, and you just got to balance that out. I think most good teams will have 3 strikers as options in case of an injury, in case somebody's gone off the boil, or you just need to change it up a bit.
Kieran, Connor says we're going to be fighting on 4 fronts, but surely that European adventure hangs in the balance unless we get this recruitment right early doors, and then it's a balancing act. If an offer does come in for Cyril Dessers next week, do you take that, or do you have to gamble and hold out to see if you get into Europe and then you're letting him go at the 11th hour?
I'm hoping that if we were to take an offer for Dessers, we had somebody kind of lined up, because we need to make sure that we get into the Champions League. We have to. It's such a big carrot dangling in front of us just now. We need to make sure we get in, regardless for what the money we bring. We need to make sure we get in. The thing is with Dessers, and he is an enigma, that's the problem. He can do so much, and then sometimes he looks like he's never kicked a ball before. And we can't afford to go into the first game of the season, because if we go into the game and just say we lost 1-0, right, and we had the chances to absolutely bury Hearts and Dessers missed them all, or Dessers couldn't do anything, or the end product wasn't there, then that 3 points might be really hard ground to catch up with. And that's just, unfortunately, the position that we're in just now. We need to hit the ground running here. And Danilo, he's off the pace. You've got Lovelace, it's too injury prone. You've got Lammers, who's away, basically. And you're hanging your hat on Dessers. We need to be looking to get somebody in as a striker.
Yeah, I would say that we definitely need another one in, but I wouldn't sit with Coda and say that we'll have 3 of that calibre. I think, if you are bringing one in, it'll be Danilo and another. I think Dessers is attracting interest, and he'll maybe fund a move for Shankland, or indeed Majowski's, as William's saying there.
But just on that though, to come back at you, how can you can't surely, knowing the issues Danilo's had with the injuries he's picked up there, it's a hell of a gamble then, having just him and another, because if he gets injured, then you're in the same situation we were in this season and the season before, where you've got one striker that you're relying on to do the job for you constantly, and that creates its own problems no matter how good the striker is. Even if it is Lawrence Shankland, he has a couple of bad games, everybody's on his back calling for John Sterling to get flung up front or something. Do you know what I mean? That's my concern. So that's the part that I think you've got to at least take into consideration. Is Danilo going to be able to stay fit for the full campaign? I'm not sure.
I would agree with you, because I think on Wednesday night he looked miles off it. He looked uncomfortable. I'd have to say, actually, his movement wasn't great. I don't know whether he's nursing something. Obviously, his knees all sort of strapped up and got some support on there, but only time will tell on that one. Alan, I'll come to you then, just so we can come bring it back to Todd Cantwell. I've not had a chance to speak about Todd Cantwell. Obviously, the manager came back into the press room the other night and revealed that he's off ski. He's asked to leave, and he's not really leaving behind much of a legacy.
No, which is disappointing, because he's the sort of player who'll get fans off their seat and get you excited and be able to go and take the ball and actually make runs and get us up the park and create. But much like Ryan Kent, the numbers don't back up his talent. And that, as a fan, is just massively frustrating. He'll do the show stuff, the stuff that gets people excited, but we need an end product. This isn't Norwich City, or where winning is a bonus.
Thank God this isn't Norwich City.
This isn't the sort of club where winning is a bonus and it's only about entertainment. You know, we need to be winning games and we need to be winning leagues and trophies. And for that end, we need the creative players to be hitting good numbers, not Todd Cantwell numbers or Ryan Kent numbers.
Connor, are you disappointed in Cantwell in the sense that, you know, he's not motivated, it looks like? You know, you look across at Celtic, they've got Matt O'Reilly, who's come up from an English club, a smaller club. His numbers last year were incredible. Probably took Celtic to the league title. Cantwell should be looking at that as the mantle and saying, I need to get as good at that and then try and better that. But instead, he's slinking off.
It's the attitude. That's the thing for me. The attitude is stinking for Cantwell at times. You know, you look at the other side, as you say, Matt O'Reilly, his attitude for day one has been spot on. I mean, people, it's easy to forget now. When Matt O'Reilly first came into Celtic, you know, there was a bit of uncertainty about him. You know, his first few appearances, he didn't do an awful lot, and there was not grumblings, but there was certainly, when you looked at the other players who they had signed there, people weren't looking at him necessarily thinking, yeah, he's going to turn out to be the player he has done. But that's about work rate and attitude and wanting to do it. Instead of doing antics off the park, which you almost never hear from Matt O'Reilly, he's focused on what he can do on the training ground and on the pitch to better himself. Cantwell is so frustrating because you know he does have quality. He's got all the ability in the world. For me, if Cantwell gets his attitude together and actually plays at his maximum ability, I think he's just as good as Matt O'Reilly. You know, and the problem is he doesn't do that enough. People have mentioned things like the shush burger and stuff. What are you doing? I think there's an element of me that believes, and maybe it's the cynic in me that thinks that Cantwell, when he signed for Rangers, having obviously left Norwich in the way he did, I think he almost thought that he was going to come up here and it was going to be the Todd Cantwell show in Govan. That the team was going to be built around him. It was going to be all about him. And that's not the attitude to have, because at clubs like Rangers, it's not about individual players. It's about a group of players together pulling in the same direction. And if you've got someone doing silly things, you know, don't underestimate mentality-wise what that does to players as well when he sets them up to be absolutely ridiculed online with his nonsense. See, before Celtic games, doing stuff like that, shush burgers and all this other crap. You don't do that. You do your talking on the pitch. You win the game of football, then you have the bit of banter. Because going into every one of those games, he had never bloody won a game against them apart from a meaningless one at the end of the season before. And he thinks that qualifies him to act like a clown. You know, that just, it frustrates you. You never ever seen that for guys like Kevin Thompson or a Barry Ferguson or that back in the day. Not to say they didn't have antics off the park, but they weren't online giving it the big I am and all that, you know, or doing silly things like that before games. They were very much focused on the task at hand. So, look, I wish him well in terms of where he goes, and hopefully he can sort that out. He's still 26, so there's still time for him to do that in his career. But yeah, it feels like a man who's determined to sabotage his own future, and it's a shame.
I would say maybe his defence, you said obviously he thought he was coming up to the Todd Cantwell show. I'm dare say Michael Beale probably filled his head with that sort of propaganda to get him to sign on the dotted line, but we'll never know until the book comes out, I suppose. Kieran, okay, you know, I've not got much time left, 10 minutes. You want to get any questions in, lads, get them in the comments, pull them up, and some of the boys can answer them. Just give me you're sat here now, Friday night, 10-6. How are you feeling getting into the season?
Well, optimistic as ever, Mr. Optimistic. No, listen, I want to be optimistic. I don't want the viewers to think that I'm consistently doom and gloom about it. I do want to be optimistic. The problem is, I'm 26 myself, right, and I have never really seen the golden years or anything like that. I got a taste of it at 55, and I absolutely loved every single second of it. For the next season to then be underwhelming, and the season after that to be underwhelming, you know, it just seems to be that every time I get my hopes up, something happens. Like, we had the chance to win the league, and I was all for putting Clermont on a pedestal towards the end of last season when we looked like we had made that ground up and we looked like we were going to pull away. I thought he's a magician, but it just sometimes things happen for a reason, eh? But I'm hopeful this season. I'm not going to say I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. I really want us to do something. I want us to pull together and really make a mark in this league, because we're already being doubted by them across the city, just by the transfer saga that we're in just now. What a great way to stick it to them if we went out and absolutely smashed this campaign.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, whatever, I'll take a half of whatever you've had, because my optimism isn't quite at the ceiling just yet. Alan, is it silly of me to say, or futile of me to say, that the manager's position is a concern? I don't mean, him getting the sack. I mean him potentially walking away if he doesn't get back between now and the end of the window.
It's a concern. I don't think it's unreasonable for you to say that, but I would just maybe like a wee bit more comment for the manager. I think he could maybe calm things down a wee bit, just speaking a wee bit more, and just putting a steady hand on it. I think he's probably trying to do the right thing and stay silent and not say too much, but I think he's been very quiet and even appearing quite quiet on the touchline, watching the games. So
did you think Wednesday night he cut a lone figure on Wednesday night?
That's what I mean. It seems just a bit more withdrawn than the Philip Clement that came in last season. I don't know if this is getting on top of him, or if it's just he's a bit more laid back during sort of pre-season and he's focused more on observing what's happening as opposed to getting more involved. But I think if we continue to struggle and we have a bad start to the season, there'll be a lot of talk and a lot of pressure on him. And I think, to be honest, he's more likely to walk than he is to be sacked. But I think he'll be staying.
Well, apparently Connor's away for a Jedi. I don't speak that lingo, so I don't know what that is, but I hope whatever he is, he's enjoying that Jedi. We'll get that up back. We'll get that off him when he comes back in. Kieran, I'll come to you then on the manager, because it's, I before the season had started in earnest and we got all the Philip Clement stuff about transfer budgets and having to sell players and stuff, I genuinely said, looking at how the fixtures had laid out, trying to get to Europe early on, and then Celtic before September, the pressure's going to be on if those results don't go his way. Has he almost got not some leeway, but in the sense that he's got an excuse in the bank that if he's not back, then what is he meant to do?
I mean, he showed towards the end of last season what he could get out of the players that he had, and he did seem to look like he got some. I was reading the comments about Gunnar. The thing.
It must have been an absolute belter of a Jedi Knight or a Colin Nish, whatever it was. He's away.
No, I do think that he has kind of lost that leeway a little bit. I think the points that we were in front, I think that credit got spent a little bit when we crumbled. I do really think that. I can't look in these comments, man. No, I think that I forgot what I was going to say now. Fuck's sake. It's probably nonsense anyway, as Cody pointed out earlier on. But I think that, I suppose if he doesn't get backed, then he will probably have that some sort of excuse to say that he wasn't backed. I don't think Clement's the type of person that would come out and say that he wasn't backed and run his mouth. I think that fuck it, Alan, it's on to you, mate. I'm reading his comments.
It's an Obi-Wan Kenobi a jobby. That's absolutely brilliant.
Kieran's gone.
I
hope it's no Thomas the Tank he's away from.
The comments have just been sort of spreading rumours about where you've been. It was a Jedi Knight or a Colin Nish or an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Can you confirm or deny these allegations? He's on mute.
I was on the phone, so I can staunchly deny them.
It was a dog and bone. It was a dog and bone. There we
go. Yes.
Okay. we're talking about Clermont there and what have you, but there's a comment that came in.
Aye.
Actually, I've just pulled up. So, Nick Fadley, I hope I've said that right. Nick, how you doing? Expectations in Europe, Connor. We've spoke about how important it is to get into the top table, not just for the kudos, but obviously to stop our rivals getting the share of the lion's share of the prize money, and racing further ahead in terms of financials.
Yeah, well, listen, absolutely. This is the thing. It's massive getting into the Champions League this season. There's no question about that. Obviously, it's under the new format as well, which means you'll get more games to play potentially, because obviously you'd maybe play 6 and be out the competition straight away. I think that the issue is I don't know that I believe, from what I've seen so far, that this team's capable of beating a Dynamo Kiev. I know there's still a leg to go there, but let's be honest, they're 6-2 up. It's going to be Dynamo Kiev, barring something quite extraordinary for Partizan. And that's the concern. And the thing is as well, that's only the first hurdle. If we do manage to find our way past them, you've then got a playoff game that you've then got to win to get in. And we've seen last season the quality opposition you can come up against there and how tough that can be. So, look, it's a hard ask, but it's so important, because, as you say, we need to be able to take a slice of that pie away from them, because if they get all that money, they're miles behind. Now, don't get me wrong. What I would say, and I would just caveat this, yes, it would be a massive problem for us, for them to be financially so far in front. However, two things on that front is that because of the new financial rules, they can't. It's not like they can just go out and spend all that money. There's still ways to do it. And secondly, they don't tend to do that anyway. They've had 70 million in the bank for years, and their own fans get frustrated because they don't seemingly. Not that I'm saying that they would go and spend that amount in a window, but other than Ange, when he came in and got £50 million over 4 windows, that's a rarity. So, it's important without doubt. If we miss out on it, then it's about, can we go far into the Europa League? Because this is the thing as well. This is the last season, for the time being, that the champions automatically qualify. Whoever wins the league this campaign won't automatically get in to the Champions League unless but we can make that the case going forward by getting a good lengthy run and getting some coefficient points on the board. So we'll see what happens on it. And in terms of the manager chat, just to say on that, I find that we cannot afford to have another manager leave the club this season, because it becomes a laughingstock. There was no doubt that Michael Beale had to go last year. When you're getting humiliated at home off Aberdeen, of all teams, it's time to go. It's time to walk. You don't lose games like that. And there's no question of that. Probably should have gone earlier in many people's estimations. But to have, 3 seasons in a row where you sack a manager around about the same time and bring somebody else, you're not going to win league titles if you go through managers like most people go through pairs of socks. You know what I mean? You've got to.
So if Clermont's humbled at Parkhead and then he's humbled at home to Aberdeen, who you've just mentioned, you would say just leave him in. He's building something here.
Look, the challenge for me is, clearly the pressure will fall on him if he, particularly that first game at Parkhead, if he doesn't win that, because that'll be his 5th attempt with no success against them. I would put more stock on the game that will hopefully by that stage be at Ibrox. In the New Year fixture, I think that would be the one I'd be putting my stock on. But obviously results tell. If it goes really poorly and we're losing game after game, then he would have to go. But I find it disheartening to think that could happen, because where are we going to go next? Who's the next manager you're going to bring in? And who wants to take the Rangers job at that point? Let's be honest here. At that point, as a manager looking on at Rangers, are you going to think, there's a club I want to go to? Because you would look at us and think, they're turning into Watford. They're just going through managers here. Do I have any realistic hope of achieving anything? Am I going to get any time? And that's sometimes what you need to do. Gerrard get 3 years. Gerrard probably would have been sacked if COVID hadn't come in, if we're being honest. But he got 3 years to build a team. Clermont has only had a year. Beale got all the backing under the sun. It didn't work. Clement hasn't had the same level of backing. He's had a hand tied behind his back here, and I think we need to back him as much as we can. Of course, results on the park tell in the end, but I said it at the time when we brought in Clement and when Beale left that I couldn't imagine us sitting a year from that point having the same conversations again about who's going to be the next manager. It has to stop. And quite frankly, if he does have to go, and I'll end on this, then it's not just him then that has to go. Then it becomes a case that the board are failing structurally to make the right appointments, to back the right people, and to actually run the club. And if that gets to that point, then we as fans need to be calling for their heads on the chopping block, because they can't just skate by for years by sacking managers when it's not working. They have a responsibility as well. Hopefully it won't all come to that. It just is a real concern to me if it does. And
a fine point to end on. I think you'll agree. Listen, thanks to everyone who's tuned in, who's shared comments, who's laughed at Connor's wee toilet break, turned out to be a phone break. But thanks to Connor himself, Kieran and Alan. I think we are back tomorrow for a reaction after the final whistle in Germany. Is that right, Connor?
We are, yes. 8 p.m. tomorrow evening after the Union Berlin game. So, yeah, tune in for that.
Get your notifications on. As always, like, subscribe, leave a wee comment if you like what you saw. And we'll be back tomorrow night. Cheers.